Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Welcome to my 1,440 subscribers. We are growing fast. Thank you, I appreciate you, and I'm here for you to share what I've learned in my life, so maybe it can be helpful to you when you go through certain experiences, that you'll have a little bit of insight and maybe be able to handle them better, the good ones and the bad ones, to take advantage of opportunities when you meet them, and to get through those hard times when they come. And surely they will come. That's what makes life exciting, although you don't enjoy them. If you'd like to get my help personally, I do consulting. Mark's Inspiration is my website. Check out my books on Amazon. Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels, and The Power Is Within. Both of them are available in softcover and ebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can check me out at Instagram at Mark's Inspiration. And if you're watching it on Instagram, you can check me out on YouTube at Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. All right, like and subscribe before we begin. And today's topic is going to be that buzzword, vulnerable or vulnerability. A lot of dating coaches and people are telling you to be vulnerable, to have vulnerability. Well, we're going to speak about this right after you like and subscribe, and after this. You have to be strong enough to endure these things. You have to approach women. With today's social media, she's constantly being hit on. Women are always in the game. You have to stay focused. We are men. That's what we do. Vulnerability. Vulnerable. What is the definition of those words? What is the original definition? What the word really means? Or we could even say the root. Because as time goes on, words have a tendency to be changed by societies and cultures to fit, I'm not sure whose agenda, but someone's. So let's see what it says about vulnerability. The word vulnerable, first off, susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. Let's read that again. Susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. Now, would you consider me your friend if I'm telling you, hey, you need to be more susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm? I think you might say, well, what the hell, Mark? Why do you want me to be more susceptible? I would think you would want me to be more immune and able to protect myself from physical or emotional attack or harm, correct? It doesn't make any sense to tell someone to make themselves susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how that is a benefit for me or someone else if I suggest they make themselves vulnerable. But yet we have people writing books, people in places of great influence telling us to be more vulnerable, to have vulnerability. Now, I know what they mean. I think I know what they mean. They say you should be more open. Well, how many people have made themselves right here susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm, and then later reap the benefit or the result, the consequences is the word, of that? They're heartbroken. It takes them a year or two to get over it. Some people even zero themselves out. Some people lose businesses. They lose their family. They lose their kids. not to death, but you understand what I'm saying. They lose it to divorce or through separation or whatever it happens to be, because they made themselves so open or vulnerable that their partner just didn't like it. She didn't feel safe with him. When a man makes himself open, if he opens himself up to physical or emotional attack or harm, then he's opening his family up to the same thing. How many women want to stay with a guy who makes himself available to physical attack or harm? Because if he gets hurt, how is he going to support the family? How is he going to take care of his woman? How is he going to protect his kids and his woman? How is he going to do that if he goes around being vulnerable? He's not going to be able to. So I think people really need to look up the definition of the word before they go telling people they need to be vulnerable or to have more vulnerability. Let's see if we can find a more modern definition. Okay. Let me see. Well, let's look up vulnerability. How about that? Let's see what it has to say. Okay, vulnerability. We should look up the opposite. Here, let's see what it says here. Now, is this out of the Oxford? Okay, this is from the Oxford Dictionary. Vulnerability, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked. Once again, that doesn't sound too good. I don't think any woman would want to think her husband is going out there and being in the state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. That doesn't make too much sense now, does it? I wanted to see the synonym of this. Let's see what we can find here. Let's see. This may be a more modern definition. Vulnerability in relationships. Let's see what that has to say. This is probably more of my why vulnerability. Here you go. Why vulnerability is so important in relationships. This comes from verywellmind.com. They call it this. This is their definition of vulnerability. I haven't read this yet. Let's see. Is when a person willingly takes the risk to reveal their emotions and weaknesses. Now, why would a woman want to know your weaknesses? So she could feel fear, so she could maybe think, I don't know, is this guy going to be able to take care of me and my family if something goes down, if something bad happens? Let's say if the infrastructure or internet or the electricity or water goes off. Does she really need to know your weaknesses? I don't think so. You want her to feel safe, right? Let me give you an example. Let's say you come home from work one day and you got a guy at work and he's bullying you. Do you come home and tell your wife that you're afraid of him? You're afraid to fight him? You're afraid he's going to get you fired? You don't know what you're going to do because every day you go in there, you're afraid of him. You're afraid he's going to catch you in the bathroom and beat you up, or he pushed you around in there. How do you expect your wife and your kids to feel safe with you when you're going home and telling her that? You are a man. You're supposed to know how to handle these things. She depends on you to be strong, to deal with things like that. Because if she sees you not knowing how to handle that when someone is bullying or picking on you, are you going to be able to stop it if they're doing it to her? I'm sure she's not going to have much confidence in you. So why in the hell do you want to be open to her about things like that? That's being vulnerable. Go tell your buddy or your mentor. He's going to offer you advice, like maybe stand up for yourself or what to do, so you can be strong for your wife and your kids. Now, there are some people that say I'm Neanderthal or old-fashioned, or I need to get with the new style of things. Well, that's fine, because they live in such a safe bubble here in the U.S. that they think this can't happen to them. Although it happens all the time, They think these old ways are not workable. We as humans, especially us men, have been warring individuals since the beginning of time. Now, we have advanced intellectually, but we're still the same primitive humans we've always been, as is obvious by the wars that continue to go on in the world, by the bullying, and by the crimes. This has not stopped. It's no better now than it's ever been. We've just discovered better ways to kill people. Mass destruction. Really, that's all it is. We are still the same human beings. Maybe in 10,000 or 50,000 years, we will evolve from this, possibly. But at this present moment, this is just the way things are. So we have to deal with the realities. I'm all in believing in imagination and creating your world and creating the world in which you live. But we can't deny the reality of how things are now. So vulnerability is not a good idea with your woman if you want her to feel safe and you want her to trust you as a man. Now, I'm not saying be dishonest, but what I am saying is not go open your heart to your woman about how you feel about everything. You want to get rid of her? You want to know the best way to get rid of a woman you're dating? If you want to break up with her, just start telling her how much you need her, how much you love her, how you just don't know what, man, if anything ever happened to her, you just don't know how you would get by. She's your everything. When you wake up in the morning, you think about her, and before you go to sleep, you think about her. You don't know how you got so lucky to have someone like her, how she can put up with you. Just start talking shit like that, and in a short time, she'll be looking at you saying things like this. Honey, I love you, but I'm just not in love with you anymore. It's not you, it's me. I just need some space. Yeah, try that out. See how that works for you, if you want to get rid of her. I'm guaranteeing you, that'll get rid of her. Or she'll look at you with disdain and disrespect. All right, so here it says, we have a few things down here. What does being vulnerable mean in a relationship? Now, these aren't from anybody. Okay, it's just modern definition. Being vulnerable in a relationship is letting your guard down to connect in a raw and open manner. Summerfelt notes, it means putting your heart on the line, even if that means heartache. That might sound like an ouch, but vulnerability encourages the most authentic version of yourself to come to the forefront. Hey, I'm all about being yourself, but that self needs to be the kind of man that a woman can trust, that a woman feels safe with, that your kids feel safe with. I'll give you an example. Last night, I was kind of in I won't say a nostalgic mood. I'm not really sure what kind of a mood it was. An emotional mood. And I was walking around the ballpark beside my house, and the moon was out, and I was feeling grateful. I was emotionally grateful for all the things I have in my life. And I also thought back to when I was a kid growing up, how I really didn't feel loved. I know now my parents did love me, but they never told me, they never hugged me, and they never expressed any emotions of love toward me that I could understand. And my youngest son, he's 13, and I did not see him until he was probably 2 years old because we were split up. And he's been with me since he's been 2 years old, just us. And the mother's been gone. She's not been with him since then. And I'm busy sometimes, most of the time with my business, taking care of the kids and with the YouTube channel here and the books that I write, the different things. And I could see where maybe he doesn't feel love sometimes. So I wanted to tell him that last night. But when I was at the ballpark, my other son, who wants to drive the car all the time, came out. And he wanted to go somewhere. I said, okay, go ahead, take the car out for a little while. And I said, hey, come here, come back here. And he came back there and I just held him. Now, I was emotional, so I could have cried easily. I didn't do it. Because these kids look to me to be strong. And if you start crying in front of your kids, they don't know how to deal with that. Now, I'm not saying I've never cried in front of my kids because I've lost my mom and my dad since we've all been together the last 12 years. But you have to be very cautious about crying in front of those you love as a man, because they depend on you. When everything goes to hell in any of my kids' lives, they come to me. And they want to know that I may have the answer, but if I don't, that they know I'm not going to fall apart no matter what they tell me. So it's very important to be strong. Well, let's look up the opposite of vulnerability. I had the synonym there. Let me see. Let's see what it says here. Because I think, give me a second here. Oh, well, I almost had it there. There you go, right here. Vulnerability opposite. Let's see what that says. And this is from, well, here we go. Some words. Invincibility. Now, don't you think that your woman would want to think of you as invincible? Wouldn't you rather project that to her rather than vulnerability, open for attack, susceptible to that? I think so. Don't you think most women and children in a family would want to be with a man that has invincibility? Doesn't that make more sense to promote that than vulnerability? Oh, that's invulnerable. Okay, immunity, invincibility. What is the opposite? Okay. Immunity, impenetrability, imperviousness. I can't even pronounce this other word. Unaccessibility, strength, resistance, untouchability. Now think about those characteristics. Aren't those much more admirable characteristics? Don't you think your woman and your kids would admire you more if you had those characteristics, which are the opposite of vulnerability? Oh yeah, invulnerability is the opposite. Invincibility. Okay, I was a little confused on that. Yeah, those are the kind of characteristics we admire in our movie heroes. Even when they put some of these women on there now that are 110 pounds and they're kicking the asses of these 240-pound Secret Service special Navy SEALs, special arts, that's not what special forces, that's it, special forces people. It's incredible, isn't it? So they portray them actually as having the opposite characteristics of vulnerability. But yet we have another faction out there telling us men that we need to be vulnerable. We need to be more vulnerable, more open to attack. But yet these characteristics are not what they put on the movie screen of the women and some of the men that we admire as heroes. Was Thor, the original Thor that we watched in the first couple of movies, was he vulnerable? Was he open for attack? Who else is there? Bruce Willis in some of the movies he did, Die Hard. Was he vulnerable? No, he was the opposite of that. But yet we have a whole group of people or an agenda or whatever being pushed out there for men to be more vulnerable. When I think the opposite is true. We need to be more invulnerable. Invulnerability, invincibility, immunity, impenetrability, imperviousness, inviolability, unaccessibility. Now, when I say unaccessibility, some people may think that you had no access to the person on an emotional level. Now, I'm not advocating such stoicism that you just never share anything. But what I am saying is your family, your wife, and anybody who's under your lead or authority, because we do have men in authority here, you need to be an example. I will give you an example. When I help people, when I mentor people, and I've made this mistake sometimes of opening up to them and telling them some of the troubles I'm struggling with currently in my life. Well, this causes a lack of confidence in these people because they're looking up to you. Those things need only be shared with your mentor, who is someone you admire and look up to, who is guiding and leading you to a higher level of character. You can't share those types of things, at least in a way, in an emotional way. You can share it with the person you're helping after you've gone through it, and you can tell them what you've learned from it and the strength you've gained from it. But if you're going through a difficult emotional time, if you're a mentor, you do not share that with your mentee because they will lose confidence in you. You have to be strong for those people. You can show your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities to your mentor because he understands and he's helping you to grow in a stronger direction. So these words have a place, but in my opinion, you don't need to be vulnerable to your woman or to your kids or to your family to the point to where they think you're weak, because that's exactly what they're going to think. Now, they got this agenda pushing that, oh, it's going to show you only strong men can be vulnerable. That's not true. To me, it's a lie. But you can make your own decision. You don't have to believe what I'm telling you. Try it. See what works for you. I'm just giving you another way to look at this word, the original definition and meaning of the word. Let's go on down there and see what else they got. What is a word for not being vulnerable? How about this? People also ask, what is a word for not being vulnerable? Well, let's see. Protected or exempt? Don't you think your wife and kids would like to think you're exempt from being hurt? You're exempt from harm? And don't you think they would feel much safer with you if they thought you were exempt? I think so. Especially from an obligation or the effects of something immune, resistant, unsusceptible, and not liable. Good definitions there, or good points. Oh, here you go. What is the opposite of what is the opposite of emotionally vulnerable? Because that's what they're telling us to be. I know there's a lady here a while back that wrote a book out of it. She's got a whole following that she's influencing them to be more vulnerable in their intimate relationships. So let's see, what is the opposite of being emotionally vulnerable, like this woman is telling people they need to be to have successful relationships? This is the opposite of what actually works. And if you don't believe me, go out and try it and see what happens. Go try being emotionally vulnerable with your woman and do that around her and your kids. She'll lose respect for you. She won't feel safe with you. And why would she if you're making yourself susceptible to attack? Okay, opposite of exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed. Invulnerable, guarded, and protected. Yes, you need to guard your inner man. You're the king in this kingdom here. You allow what comes in and you allow what goes out through your mouth. So it's up to you to protect your kingdom. Now you don't have to walk around thinking everybody's out to get you. Look out, awesome, I got to just constantly be on guard. I'm not talking about that. But you sure as hell don't need to wear your heart on your sleeve, because that is not attractive to a woman who's looking for a man of strength. Now, in our society today, of course, they say, oh, I don't need no man. Well, isn't that amazing how many of these women say they don't need a man, but yet they're divorced and they got that child support coming in? Maybe they should say, I just need a man for his money. No, they need a man to help them with the kids and the family. We need each other. Women need men and men need women. Now, what would we do if we had no women? Well, humanity would die out. I've said that before. We need to stop this division. And that's what we have, at least here in the West, is a division. A pushing of the division of men and women to divide them, to get them against each other. Well, if we get against each other, what's going to happen? We got men opting out of intimate relationships, and we got women who just don't want to be with a man. They got their own career, they're doing this, they're doing that, and we need each other. That's a lie to say we don't need each other. I mean, I need women. If I didn't have a woman, I wouldn't have all the kids I have. I mean, my woman is not with me. Now, am I going to tell you that I don't need a woman to raise these kids? Sure, I can raise them by myself, but I guarantee you, if they had an active, productive, functional mother here, they would be raised better than I could do it by myself. And a woman can't raise kids by herself as well as she can if she's got a masculine role model in the house. Same thing here. So to say that I don't need a woman to help me raise these kids is a lie. It's not true. Yes, I can raise them, but not as effectively and as good as I could if I had a functional, if both of us were together, working as partners, working as, I don't want to say, I'll say equals, but I don't believe we're equal. We're not the same. I think we're all equal in the eyes of God, but we're not equal. I'm not equal in the fact that I can nurture my kids the same as she can, and she's not equal in the fact of biologically as strong as I am. So that word equal gets kind of misconstrued sometimes. So I wanted to try to explain it to you. It's very important to understand that we are not the same, men and women. Now, we're equal as human beings. I believe that, and we all should have equal, we'll say equal opportunities. But I don't believe in equal outcomes. As I said before, I can't get pregnant and have a baby, so that's just not who I am. I'm a man, and she can't do the things that I can do. That's why we don't see women on the front lines of wars. They're just not made for that. No more than I'm made to have kids and raise them by myself. I can't nurture children. I can't nurture my daughter. I cannot relate to her as well as a woman can. And a woman can't relate to boys, my sons, as well as I can. Because those boys get older and they will stand up to you. They want to see if you're strong enough to protect them from harming themselves, especially when they get to be teenagers. And I know my kids tell me about some of these boys talk to their mom like she's a piece of dirt, cuss her, call her derogatory words, and what's she going to do about it? She can't do anything. But my boys won't do that to me. They wouldn't even try because they know that there will be serious repercussions, and they respect me. Okay, they can't respect a woman like that. Now, on the reverse side of that, my daughter comes up here and she has problems, and I'm logically trying to help her. I don't understand her. I'm not a woman. I mean, I understand in a logical way, but I can't relate to it because I'm not a woman. So I have a hard time helping her. So I had to get her involved in a group of women, older women who have wisdom and knowledge where she could share her problems and they can offer her solutions. I can't do that. I'm a man. I have no problem admitting that I can't do that. Now, women many times have a problem admitting they can't do something a man can do. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the way it is. But we each have our place. Now, tell a woman, most women in the West, that they should know their place. You are a misogynist. A misogynist is someone who is prejudiced or hates women. I have no prejudice against women. I love my mom. I love my ex-wives. They just decided they wanted to go out and experiment with other men. And, of course, I don't tolerate that, so I walked away from them. But we each have a part to play, and each of our parts is important. We each have a place. That's the way it was designed. We were made to work together, and we can't change that. We can resist it, and our society, our culture, our children suffer, as they're suffering now with this 50% divorce rate, 70% of that initiated by women. Are the men just crap? Is that what's going on? No, I don't think so. I think we both, men and women, need to try and work together and don't be influenced by what is trying to push us apart. Otherwise, we will become extinct. Our society, our culture, the human race. It's a ridiculous thought, but is it? I'm going to stop with that. Thanks for joining me today. Again, welcome to my new subscribers. I appreciate you guys. And I'm out of here. Take care.